So today we have Wallace Thurman. He died very young. He was an author during the Harlem Renaissance. Wallace Thurman was not simply a cheerleader for black writers, but a vocal critic and theorist who promoted controversial themes. He was born August 16th, 1902 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He attended the University of Utah and then the University of Southern California. He did not complete a degree there. He started working at the Los Angeles Post Office by in 1923, but he was driven by greater literary ambitions. In August of 1925, he abandoned Los Angeles for Harlem, where he quickly established himself as a rising star. He ended up managing editor of The Messenger, which was one of the African American newspapers. Thurman and Langston Hughes roomed together, collaborated on the literary magazine Fire. At the time, the magazine was ignored by critics, but later Fire became recognized as one of the most influential publications of the period in terms of artistic merit. Nevertheless, just like Marcus Garvey, it was a financial disaster, and when the building that stored the copies of the magazine burned down, Fire literally went up in smoke. So that was a failure there, but he decided to launch a new project as editor of Harlem, a forum of Negro life. Harlem was published in November of 1928. This magazine was meant to be different from Fire, and in that it would contain both racial and non-racial subject matter. It suffered, however, the same fate as did Fire and went under. Thurman turned to playwriting. And Harlem, one of the plays was called Harlem, which is based on Thurman's short story and Fire. The play brought the rent party and the Harlem Numbers Racket to Broadway and was a critical and financial success downtown. In 1929, The Blacker the Berry was published. The novel is about a young woman's struggle with racism both in the black community and beyond. His next novel, Infants of the Spring, appeared in 1932 and is a scathing indictment of the Harlem Renaissance. By this time, however, Thurman's drinking and depression were growing worse and worse. His last novel, The Internee, was a collaboration of A.L. Furman and was a sort of expose of the medical profession. The book was penned by critics. Around the time he moved to Hollywood to write screenplays. His script, Tomorrow's Children, was produced in 1934. In May of 1934, he returned to Harlem and collapsed at a party shortly after. On December 21st, he died of tuberculosis at the age of 32. His screenplay, High School Girls, was produced in 1935. Both of his films were ignored. Thurman's legacy was his fearlessness in the face of opposition and an indifference by both blacks and whites. He was one of the pioneers of unflinchingly authentic themes that led the way for the next generation of writers. Thank you, Wallace